You're doing, isn't it?
It's essentially, yeah. It's so true.
All right, so
True,
we
true,
are
true.
live on Facebook, and we're live on Facebook right now.
Great.
So, are we ready to begin, Mr. J?
Yes,
All
completely.
right, yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Hume Johnson. Welcome to Brand New Lab and or virtual roundtable. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of our virtual roundtable where we talk with exciting personalities who are busy cultivating winning personal brands. So last time we kicked off with singer-songwriter and winner of the UK X Factor 2018, Dalton Harris. And what an intriguing conversation that was. I am very pleased to welcome another rising star, actor and performer, Marcus James. Now, many people may not know this, but Marcus James was in The Lion King, Disney's Lion King, and most recently guest starred in one of the most popular series on HBO in 2018. I mean, everybody was on it, which is Game of Thrones. And Marcus, proud buck. I mean, Jamaicans begin at proud. We start at proud, so we're very proud of you. Many people, guys who are watching, they dream of becoming actors, stars on film and making it big in Hollywood, but very few people actually do. And so Marcus perhaps represents a new era of Jamaica's acting presence in Hollywood. So we have to celebrate each stride that you make, Marcus.
Thank you.
And so we're going to talk about what does it take to get coveted roles in Hollywood? What challenges does he face? And what role does his personal brand play in all of this? And this is some of what we'll talk about for the next hour or so. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm not a star in Hollywood, but...
Not yet. Not yet.
I am a former journalist with the Jamaica Information Service television department. I was also a specialist newsreader with Radio Jamaica and with Fame FM. These days, I hang out in Providence in Rhode Island. I'm a tenured professor of communications at Roger Williams University. Well, my most important work is at Hume Johnson Consulting, where we help leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs really cultivate and mobilize their personal brand and to communicate their brand message with confidence, with clarity, and with credibility. And part of what we want to do with the Brand New Lab, especially with the virtual roundtable, is to get people to share their stories. Even if you're not yet there, we want you to share what you're doing in terms of cultivating your personal brand so that other people can be inspired by your story and to get ready to write their own story and to set out on their own journey. For those of you watching us on Zoom, please remember to keep your microphones muted. We want to get rid of that problematic background noise. Please feel free to use the chat feature on the Zoom thingy right here and make your comments, ask questions throughout the conversation. I will make an effort to look at that. For those of you watching and listening to us on Facebook, welcome. Particularly those students who are interested from the Edna Manley College of the Visual and Performing Arts. Big up on yourself. I know the creative arts is not an industry which is easy, but you are leaning into your talent and you're leaning into your own aspirations. And I hope that Marcus's story can give you inspiration today. I also try to take a peek at the questions or the comments over on my Facebook page throughout the conversation as well. So feel free to ask questions. So Marcus, let's get going. Many people don't know this Marcus James, but we were students together at the Caribbean Institute of Media and Communication.
Absolutely. Yeah, big time.
I was curious about my career in television journalism.
Yeah.
But you just was TV, right?
Yeah.
So you went on. I want to say this though, Marcus. You went on to go to England. I didn't know where you were, and you
Exactly.
did a master's in film
Yeah.
production. But I thought
Exactly.
you wanted to be a performer, a dance performer.
Yeah.
What happened? How did you get into acting in the UK? And you seem
Yeah.
to be making strides in the UK industry.
Yeah, and that's a huge story. So essentially, yeah, I was at Caramac at the University of the West Indies. I enjoyed that course immensely, and I'm finding now that the principles and the everything that I learned in that course has actually helped me as an actor. So everything has worked out for the best. I was always a performer, but I do have an interest in directing. I have an interest in writing, and that is something that will evolve as my career progresses. So that degree will come in handy later on, okay?
Mhm.
So I went to England to do my master's at the University of Bristol, film production. Very interesting story. I actually ended up directing a film which represented the university at the Sony Film Festival, and that film competed against all the universities in the UK that offered film production courses. That film came fourth. So that film came fourth out of hundreds, possibly. I mean, how many universities are in the UK, right? So out of all the universities in the UK, that film came fourth. I got a job.
Is that what launched their career in the
No,
UK film industry? Tell us about that. How did you
no.
get into that?
So I actually got a job after that working as a television editor. Okay, so while I was working as an editor, like everybody in the class knew that I was a performer. Okay, so I actually ended up acting in half of the film productions that were coming out of the production course anyway, right? So it was always there, and I was okay. So I'd be working as an editor, doing my thing, and then all of a sudden, I would I would start like reciting monologues, and I mean, I definitely did not fit in with that scenario. Okay,
Right.
so essentially, I was going to continue working as an editor just because it was a good job, but there was a calling inside which I really didn't know how to tap into. I was actually getting ready to go back to Jamaica. And 3 weeks before I was going to leave, I got a call from someone I had not spoken to in years, Robin Carr, right? And essentially, Robin said, there's a casting director looking for performers for We Will Rock You, a musical in the UK. I went to audition for We Will Rock You. I didn't get it, but the casting director for the We Will Rock You was the same casting director for The Lion King. So she plucked me out of that audition, took me to The Lion King. Long story short, after about 10 auditions, I got into The Lion King. So essentially, I owe a lot of this to fate and to Robin.
Sounds like commitment as well, because 10 auditions, it means that you kept coming back.
Yes, absolutely. By the time
I want to talk about that afterwards.
Yeah.
So, but you moved to LA, so you seem, I mean, you were in a couple of productions in the UK and seem to have been making strides in the UK.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What was the biggest thing you did in the UK?
I did quite a few things in the UK, a lot of theater. So people know now my focus is on film and television, which is why I'm in Los Angeles, but I am actually signed in London. The way the film industry is set up now is that I can be in the UK. If I have a casting, I can be in LA. And if I have a casting in the UK, I can film it on my phone or iPad or whatever and send the file to the UK, right? Everything is conjoined. Everything is mobile.
Well, why did you move to LA then, if you could do everything on your phone?
Well, essentially because in the UK, I was constantly being put up for American productions. So I was in the UK recording my auditions and sending them over to the US. So it just made more sense for me to be here. I can still audition for the same productions here. I can audition for the UK productions that are in UK and filming in the UK or filming in Canada. It really doesn't matter where I am, but the seat of film and television castings is Los Angeles. So it makes more sense for me to be here.
Is it vital though? Because people who are in Jamaica right now and they're saying, I would so much love to break into the LA scene and the film industry. Are you saying that it's physically necessary for the actor to be situated in Los Angeles?
I wouldn't say so initially, no. I would say it's necessary to work on the development of your craft and work on the development of on the excellence of your craft. And we can get into that later on. But essentially, develop your skills and your individuality as it pertains to your art form to the best of your ability. And with that comes visibility. What's happening in Jamaica now is that I'm aware that the film and television industry is picking up. I know that there are a few productions that are happening, few productions that have happened. For example, Sprinter, Rob Mailer was a producer in that. There's a film called Flight, which Kia McDonald wrote and directed. That's on HBO Max streaming service. So the more that Jamaica can produce products of high quality and excellence, is the more visible the talent becomes. And at the time that it becomes necessary for people to make that leap to live in LA or to live in London or New York, then it will happen via visibility. I don't think LA.
Visible. I want to come back to that.
LA is a type of place that you come to once you have certain roles that you can present to the television studios, to casting directors, to producers. Actually, just to go back to this, a friend of mine, when I first came to LA, a friend of mine came over and he wanted to meet with some talent agents and stuff. So I took him to meet with one, and you know, they're kind of brutal here sometimes. So he did make contacts, but the talent agent said to him, "Why are you here?" You know, and I think he was a little bit shocked by that statement. And basically, the talent agent said, "You need to go back to LA, to London, work on your craft, get some more credits. Credits are the jobs that you do. So this and this role in whatever. And then once you have that bulk of work that we are able to present to people, then you can come and be marketable." I'm not saying
I'm gonna get back to that, Marcus, because one of the things that I noticed was in the early 80s, there were quite a number of Jamaican actors who had kind of, you know, made it, our version of made it. Because once they were cast in a top film, we thought, yeah, they were doing well. You had, I have it here, Madge Sinclair. She was in Coming to America. That was very popular. She was in Trapper John as well, which was a very popular series at the time.
Yeah,
and this was our own Jamaican woman, which we were very proud of. You had Basil Wallace. I talk to Basil sometimes. Basil was in the Steven Seagal films. Remember those films? In the 90s, you had recently he was in Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio. You had Jeffrey Gunter, you had Shirley Ralph, who was on a few of the sitcoms. And what happened since? And you know, how hard is it for Jamaican actors to make it in what is clearly a very competitive environment?
It's hard for any actor to make it. I have been put up for roles. Fortunately, I do get called into the casting room quite a lot. When you get called into the casting room, basically, you know that you've already beaten thousands of actors to even be called into that room. For example, for Game of Thrones, so the part that I did in Game of Thrones, I think maybe there were about 7,000 applications for that. Between 5 and...
I'm very curious about this Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it.
Yeah. It was the best thing on TV for a while there.
Absolutely.
How did you manage to land that role?
Okay, so I have an agent in London, and basically, like any other audition, I was called in for the casting. I actually didn't know what I was going in for until the night before, and my agent called and said, "Hey, you're going in for Game of Thrones." So I did some research on the show. I looked on the narrative of the production. I looked on everything to do with the artistic delivery of the production, and I read the breakdown of the character. And in a sense, I knew I was right for it. So the onus was then on me to deliver that confidence and to deliver what they wanted to see. The casting
did you know that you were good for it? How do you know
casting breakdown basically said, shaved head, muscular. The ethnic breakdown was North African, ethnically ambiguous, Middle Eastern, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
Warrior-like, athletic. I mean, I read it and I was like, come on.
That's me.
You know? Right. So basically, I wore something to suggest the body, but I didn't walk in showing off because it wasn't about the body. The body is part of the character.
Right.
So I'm not going in with, I wouldn't wear something like this into that audition. I wore something that covered up the body, but enough for you to see the representation of the character. Exactly how I imagined the scene going is exactly what they did in the audition.
So
it's
important for you to have done that research.
Research, exactly. And this is where having done the degree at UWI came into play, because I had to visually interpret the words on the paper. We did the death scene as a casting. So the scene where my throat is cut and I die. And I was thinking, how are they going to do that in a casting room? And I said, okay, I can do it sitting down on my side, and they, will role play. And that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. And the story with...
You said that there were, 70 or 700 other people who...
No. It would have been in the thousands.
But if there are thousands of people who came for that audition, wouldn't they have and research the scene as well?
Absolutely.
Wouldn't they have had the characteristics? What made you stand out?
I think it has to do with the essence that you bring. It's not necessarily about what the other person is doing. You are your biggest competition. And as such, if you know that you're right for a part, if you know that you have something to give, it's up to you to tap into that and to offer it without worrying about what somebody else is going to do. You go into that casting room yourself. And so the onus is on you to do your homework, to be comfortable in who you are as an actor, and to know what you can deliver. So if I read a casting breakdown that says shave head, muscular, athletic, I know I have one foot in that room. It's up to me to deliver that when I go in.
Let me ask you something, Marcus.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about it as if it's just matter of fact. Oh, I did Game of Thrones.
No.
Nothing. But even President Barack Obama was a major fan. Everyone was a major fan of this thing. So it must have blown your mind.
Yes.
To have seen that you've made it and you're actually on this very, very popular series that literally will go down in history as one of those series.
It's kind of like, it's kind of like, to me, Game of Thrones is a family. Like, once you're a part of it, you're always a part of it. Like, I am in touch with some of the cast members. I'm in touch with Mina Ryan, who is a character who she killed me. We're actually extremely good friends.
So when they called you, or your agent called you to say, Marcus, you got the role, what was it like? It
was extremely exciting, but I'll tell you something. They were actually deliberating making the character's role bigger.
Right.
So I spent an entire day waiting to hear if I was going to die or if my character was going to
continue,
go on and on.
You did such a splendid death scene, though.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you something. At the time that I booked Game of Thrones, I had a part-time job. I was working with a real estate company selling office space. And this is something I want to point out. Don't be afraid, to anybody listening, don't be afraid to take jobs outside of the industry. Yes, you have a dream, you have a vision, you're going for the acting, but you need to survive, right? I'm not buying into the starving artist mentality. Like, you need to, no, it's true though. You need to survive. And the thing is that once you get into that casting room, casting directors and producers don't care about your story. They don't care that you had $2 or £2 the night before. They don't care whether you've eaten or not. They care about what you can deliver in the room. So it's up to you to make your life as comfortable as possible so that you're able to focus on your craft without anxiety and distraction. So in the UK, I had quite a few part-time jobs. One of them was working for a real estate company.
Question, can I stick a pin? David Prendergast is asking, what if you know you're not right for the role, but you decide to press on? Have you ever made a conscious decision not to go for a role, although you needed it? So the first question is, do you press on if you know that you are really not right for a role?
If you're called in for the casting, it is in your best interest to go, because sometimes the casting directors and producers will call you in not necessarily for that role, but for something else in the same production or for something else that you're casting. So it's always important to make yourself visible to casting directors. And casting directors do have lists.
Right.
They remember actors. They put your name on a list. There are certain casting houses in Los Angeles that call me in repeatedly. Sometimes it's to audition for something where I'm saying 2 lines. Sometimes it's to audition for much bigger parts. Sometimes it's to audition. And sometimes when that happens, it means that they're trying to place you in a production. And I've had instances of that. I've had instances where they send me a breakdown and I'm like, I'm not right for this, but you know what? I'm going to give it my best shot. I'm going to go in and I'm going to meet with a casting director. I'm going to show them that I'm professional enough to go in and do this. And fingers crossed you do a good job and that can land you on the director's list. So I say, go in and do the casting. If it's something that you're not comfortable with, you know, crossing moral boundaries and stuff like that, then you're completely within your right to not go in. And nobody should hold that against you, you know?
Well, one of the things I'm always peeved about is when I see singer-songwriters in a movie.
Yeah.
I always think, I always feel like they're not acting talent, but they call them in to be in this movie where there are hundreds, thousands of students who are interested in acting. They're going to their film schools and trying to learn acting, and I feel like they're at a disadvantage. Am I correct in that assessment?
You are morally correct, but you're in practicality, it doesn't work that way. The film industry is a business, and as such, some of the singer-songwriters who are cast because of their leverage in terms of the audience that they pull.
They can sell the movie. They can sell the film, right?
Yeah, and there are many ways into the industry. Now you have online content, you have YouTube, you have Netflix, HBO Max, you have Disney. There's so many streaming services that there are different ways to get in. You can create your own content and create your own leverage and visibility from that, and that can lead you to somewhere else. I am going the difficult route.
I want to ask you about that though, because there is also a notion that there is racialism in casting. Gabrielle Union talks about this a lot, where she will talk about Black people or Black actors not getting the kinds of roles, or they already picked somebody for that role. Is there racialism in casting? And have you found that your Caribbean-ness, is that a plus or a minus? Okay,
I'm going to answer that in 2 parts. I have a lot to say on this. Characters are cast based on the character. So if the character is Black or Chinese or white or ambiguous, they'll be looking for that type. I think what has happened over the years is that there are productions coming out of certain production houses targeting, for example, African-American audiences. For example, Tyler Perry has his own studio. So that raises the bar in terms of the ability to produce content that will include more African-American actors, etc.
How many
Tyler
Perrys are there?
I know. I think this is an ongoing process. I think it is getting better. Speaking from my own perspective in terms of the Caribbean-ness question, I personally have never been cast because of my Caribbean-ness. I've never been cast as Jamaican. I'm cast as ambiguous a lot. I'm cast as North African a lot. I've done a lot of mythical productions. I just played the role of Aknat in a docuseries entitled Mummy Mistress for Channel 5 in the UK. Game of Thrones was a mythical production. I did Aida on stage. That's a mythical production set in Egypt.
Is it that you don't read as Jamaican? Are you more fluid in terms of how you look? Is that what?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm profoundly aware of this. And this is a discussion where, for me in particular, that I have to have with my casting agents. I have to sit down with them and say, what do you see? And they, for the most part, they always get it right. I do best when the casting breakdown that they're looking for includes a variety of people, including the ambiguous and mixed thing, right? I'm profoundly aware that I fit into a very gray area, and in many ways it has worked to my advantage. I am also profoundly aware that in many cases, I've been the only Jamaican person in an entire production.
And you said that you were cast, you were in an audition where they were looking for a Jamaican, and you were a Jamaican, and you weren't cast for that.
I was not. This was a commercial. Yeah, this was a commercial shot in the UK, and they were doing like different, people from different backgrounds. Somebody representing Jamaica, Colombia, Cuba. I think I was cast as Cuban for that one. But but it's interesting. Like when I get a casting breakdown, I always have to look at the breakdown to see what I'm going to be on that day. So they cast me as Jamaican. Sorry, they cast me as Cuban for that one. But the casting directors knew I was Jamaican. There's also another incident where my commercial agent in the UK sent me up for a commercial. They were looking for a Jamaican guy. He called me and he said, hey, I'm thinking of putting you up for this. I said, absolutely, go for it. But I kind of know what the response is going to be, but put me up anyway. The casting director replied and said, hey, this guy looks great, but we're looking for a real Jamaican. So I was like,
a real Jamaican, I imagine, is dark skinned and
exactly. So
I want to get to Jamaica. I want to get to Jamaica in a minute, but do you have any advice for the young people who are listening?
Man, a lot of advice.
And I'm not only talking about those who are interested in acting. Any tips or advice for young people who are seeking to get into spaces that limit them?
Okay. I would say focus on your excellence. Focus on making yourself undeniable. Focus on giving yourself leverage. Focus on the confidence, building the confidence within yourself. For me personally, I was a part in Jamaica. I was a part of Little People. I was a part of Ashe. I was a part of.
I'm going to ask you about that very soon.
Yeah. So what these organizations did for me was that they gave me a level of confidence to know that I had something to offer. I already had a certain amount of self-awareness and a certain amount of confidence before, but I was surrounded by people who were uplifting and people of a particular mindset to drive me forward.
Let's talk about that. So you were in Little People in Jamaica. You were in Ashe. I was in Ashe for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Robinson had us twirling, and I got dizzy. And I decided that.
Then you decided to be a television presenter,
Being a performer was not for me. You were in the Dewey Dance Troupe, you were Dance Society, and by the way, Simone Clark, you know Simone Clark?
Yeah, big time.
Old Smile Jamaica and Sim Soul Session. She said to tell you congratulations. All of the Little People family are very proud of you.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
So every single group that was about performance in Jamaica, you seem to have been a part of it.
I was a part of quite a few of them. There are many. Like I wasn't in JMTC or anything like that, but
you're in every one of them.
Yeah.
Literally every one of them. So how did you think that prepared you for where you are right now?
In a huge way. In a huge way. And I want to say something that's extremely important.
Right.
The majority of the productions that I have booked, I have done it with my Jamaica training. Jamaica training as the base and everything on top of it. 100% I booked The Lion King with Jamaica training. I did a production called Aida right after that, Jamaica training. I did a production with English National after that called A Living Myth. It was about the story of Gaddafi and stuff like that. Jamaica training. And I've been doing very well with my Jamaica training. Since being in Los Angeles, I've had to tap into a different type of training, specifically focusing on acting, which is a whole different craft. And
but I wanna stay in Jamaica for a while.
Yeah,
because to be a part of La Cadco and Little People, I mean, these were uptown groups for the most part. So people who are in the country and they decide that boy, they'd love to be an actor. How much family support did you get? Because I'm confident that these groups weren't free.
well, we
In
didn't have.
Jamaica, I'm talking about in Jamaica.
Yeah. I
What was your
wouldn't.
family support like when you said you
My
wanted to be a performer?
Yeah, I will get to that separately. But to make the get back on the Uptown thing, these organizations aren't intrinsically Uptown. I mean, Lantonet is very Jamaican roots. So
I'm
I
very
think
aware of Lantonet. I was
yeah,
more
so
specifically referring to
to
little
little
people.
people, okay, interesting narrative. Okay, little people had a wide cross section of people who were middle class, upper middle class, etc. There was a sizable composite of people who came out who were not from that section of society. What happened with little people is that the people who were from less privileged backgrounds, all right, I have to be careful with my words.
I don't want you to be careful. I want you to
No,
just
no,
speak
no, I
your
have to find the right way to say it.
Mhm.
Everybody found inspiration from each other. So the people who were from less privileged backgrounds, who were in Little People and surrounded by things that maybe they didn't have at home, that it inspired them to reach beyond their present circumstance.
How
So
much
Little
family
People,
support did you get? How much family support did you get? Because
we
to,
still,
to
we, we
say
still,
you,
we
let
still,
me let me
yeah,
ask you. To
yeah,
say you want to be a performer, Marcus,
yeah,
in a society where performers are not paid, let's be honest.
yes,
Your parents would have had to support this. And thus I'm asking you, how important is that kind of support for you
yeah.
to kind of nurture your dream?
It has been exceedingly important for me. And that is something that I am going to be very honest about.
Mhm.
There's a certain amount of privilege that I grew up with in Jamaica. And it's something that I'm more aware of now,
Mhm.
given the present circumstance, etc., and people self-reflecting and looking on where they are in life. So my parents were able to send me overseas and they were able to support me for a while. The biggest lesson that I had to learn in the UK was how to separate myself from that privilege.
But
Because once you're,
before we get to that, how you reconciled with it, let's talk
Mhm.
about what it really is.
Yeah,
Because you are in Linstead, you lived in Linstead.
yeah,
You're like an uptown guy who live in Linstead.
uptown adjacent.
Uptown, I love that. I love that.
Because
But hold on, Marcus. Let me
yeah,
ask you a question. This is very important for me to ask you. This is a question that I personally, in a racialized Jamaican society, we don't like to talk about it. It's a racialized Jamaican society.
yeah,
It's color coded. We all
yep,
know high
big
skin
time.
color run
Hmm.
things. Were you aware when you were in Jamaica that your skin color, how much access did it give you, and were you aware that you had that privilege?
I'm more aware of it now because I'm outside of it and I can look back on it. But I was aware of it then, but because I was living it, I
Mhm.
wasn't consciously aware of it. I was aware, I took it for granted that
Yeah.
there are certain things that I could achieve, certain spaces that I could enter, certain things that I could do, which maybe somebody else would feel the opposite in terms of their ability to access those spaces. Um, it is something, did I consciously use it? Yes, sometimes I did consciously use it. Certainly as it came to being socially present.
Mhm.
Jamaica has that whole, it's very divided. The whole class system is very divided. And so once you find yourself moving in those spaces and you get caught up into going to the parties and stuff like that, when I started to enter that realm of society is when I became conscious of how to use my physicality and how to use a certain perceived position and real position in Jamaican society to advance.
It didn't mean
Um,
that you weren't working hard. People
it does
didn't just hand it
exactly,
to
and
you,
that
because
is what I want to point.
I was aware of
Yes, yeah, it doesn't mean that I wasn't working hard. I worked extremely hard, and one of the things I want to point out is that when I joined Little People, which later morphed into, actually for me anyway, um, it wasn't about, yes, I noticed that there were a lot of people from privileged backgrounds, etc. But after a few months or after a year, you really couldn't tell the difference. You couldn't tell who came from where, because the main thing in Little People is that we were being guided towards a mindset of excellence, irrespective of where you were in society. Everybody was taught to go for gold, to reach for excellence, which is why, for example, when you see Tessan Chin, because she was in Little People with me as well, when Tessan hit that stage, she performed with a level of excellence that would have been drummed into her from Little People.
And
you
for
understand?
Ashley, I must say, for the 5 seconds I was in Ashley, for the 5 seconds I was in it, it was, that's why I couldn't keep up, because I knew that, I mean, it was very demanding.
Very demanding.
They demanded excellence, and they nurtured talent.
So for me, when I got into the space, and first of all, I joined Little People because I wanted to be on television. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was watching the commercials on TV, and I was like, I can do that. You know, I want to do that, you know? And then I got in and I saw them stretching and doing all this dance stuff. And I was like, what is this? You know? And then I was like, okay, dance seems to be one of the focal points of this.
So dance was what lit your fire first?
No, acting is what lit my fire first. But then when I got into Little People, there was a strong dance influence. And so the only way to survive in that group was to dance, right? Sink or swim. Like I was in.
I'm very convinced of that.
Yeah,
that was my exit out of Ashley.
I was in the studio, and I'm like, people are performing, and I'm like, what? So I was like, okay, Marcus, you have a choice. you either join them and jump up and down, or you leave.
I'm telling you, the man.
So I made a conscious effort. I stuck with it. Yeah.
Twirling. I mean, the man said, "Go back again, twirl," and we were twirling like this, and I was getting dizzy.
Yeah. So for me, by that point, it don't matter if you're uptown or downtown. Honestly, right? If you have to twirl, you have to jump. You understand? Living in, whether you live in Linstead or you live in Stony Hill, or you live in downtown, when you get into that space where you're training, you jump. Exactly. And the person who jumps the highest is the person who stands out. Being in Stony Hill is not going to help you there. And there are some people, I want to say, there are some people who joined the organization who were from more privileged backgrounds who couldn't hack it. That is one place where their privilege would not help them. Sure. There are some people, like myself, who were from the privileged backgrounds who stuck with it. You understand? And everybody had to work.
I understand. Let me ask you something.
Yes, ma'am.
About your first yes. I know that you've had yeses and you're still expecting greater yeses in your life. But what was that first yes that you thought set you onto the path that you're on? Because a lot of young people right now watching this are waiting for that first yes from someone.
Undoubtedly, it was The Lion King. The Lion King is what helped me to transition from working behind the scenes as an editor to being a performer on stage. And there was a gap in between that where I didn't know what was going to happen. So the most important yes for where I am in the present moment is The Lion King. The most important yes for my entire life in terms of performer was a yes from Kathy Levy to get into Little People.
Yeah, it must be very difficult for artists of any stripe, whether you're a singer or a dancer or a sculptor, to really imagine that this dream is going to come true. Were you ever fearful that your dream will not be realized?
No, because I don't think about that. I don't speak words like that over my life. I think I was very positively mentally influenced by being in Little People and Ashi and Lakadko and stuff like that. Trust me. So by the time I left those organizations, I was leaving with a solid mentality of doing the best, aim for the stars, reach for the stars, and you may land somewhere else. But the fact of the matter is that you have to reach for the stars. So by the time I left those organizations, I was already prepared to fight for my destiny. And at this point in time, in terms of where I am, I've come to the realization that I owe it to myself to maximize my potential, because I am so far within the journey and a lot has happened.
Yeah.
I owe it to myself to be the greatest version of myself possible. So no, I don't speak like things over my life. I focus on positivity. I try my best to surround myself with people who are ahead of me or people who are doing
And
the same
speaking
thing I'm doing.
and speaking of those people,
Mm,
who were your mentors? Who did you look up to?
mm. My mentors are not necessarily actors. I find mentorship can come from any strata of society. I find somebody I'm heavily into sports. I love watching sports. So watch somebody, for example, watching somebody like Rafael Nadal come
Mhm.
back from a sports injury and coming back and winning. Watching somebody like Serena Williams, who's like 5-0 down at a particular point in a tennis match and coming back to win it 7-5. Watching my peers do extremely well. I have a friend, Amir, who was just in Star Wars. I have another friend who is on some TV show in the UK. I have another friend who just booked a film for Warner Brothers, you know? So I'm surrounded by people who can inspire me, not necessarily people who are much more advanced than I am, but people of a similar mentality of excellence and progress.
And
So
that is important. You would say that that's important
yeah,
for young people.
big time. Yeah, you can find mentorship from anybody. Anybody who inspires you in a positive way can be a mentor. Unfortunately, there are also people who can have an effect on you in terms of their negative verbalization. So it's important for you to recognize when that happens and to tap into yourself and try to find out when it is you're being drained. You know, and if you feel you're being drained, you may want to step away from that situation, or you may want to reaffirm positivity within yourself. So if somebody's saying something negative to you, in your mind, you can counter that by affirming within yourself your own positivity. You know, so if somebody says to you, hey, why are you going for that casting? You're not gonna get that. In your head, you can say, I can, I will, I can do this. I believe in myself. I know I have the talent, etc.
Let's talk about your personal brand. I
Yeah.
know the fluidity is clearly part of it. The attractive bald head is because this is an industry that physical attributes are important. But
Mm-hmm.
successful people usually have a very strong identity, and they usually are very aware of their strengths and
Yeah.
their weaknesses. Uh,
Yeah.
so, what is the unique value that you think you bring to the table that makes you stand out as an actor?
Okay. I try to focus on a very high level of professionalism. So when I get into the casting room, for example, there's something called off book, which is where you memorize the lines before you go in so that you can work with the casting director seamlessly in
Right.
presenting the scene. I'm always off book. I always, as best as possible, try to research the show, research the casting director, the producer if possible. I look on the character. I decide beforehand what I'm going to wear. I'm very meticulous in what I present when I go into the casting room.
So I
Beyond that,
understand that, yeah, because that is how you prepare for an audition.
absolutely, yeah,
I'm really talking about what aspect of yourself that you think
yeah,
makes you stand out. So
yeah,
guys, don't worry about this light. This is a light
yeah.
sun coming
No,
through.
man, you look good. You're glowing. The preparing for auditions is a huge part of personal branding. And they're not a lot. There are actors who do it, but there are some actors who have to be reminded of it, which is why I brought up that. In terms of me and myself, to be completely honest with you, my physicality plays a huge part in it. I have a massive interest in sports, in fitness, in working out, and this is something that I consciously use to bring leverage and to help me to stand out.
But as an actor, for
Mm-hmm,
males or females, you have to
mm-hmm,
look good physically, right? There are a few people who are chubby or they are larger, but most
mm-hmm.
actors or actresses actually are physically in very physically good shape.
I think most actors look presentable and marketable. I
Okay.
think they're I think that marketability is different to being aesthetically beautiful. Not all actors are models, you know.
Fair enough.
But once you get to a certain level, you are complete. So you present a marketable and cleaned up image. It depends on the role. You know,
But
there's certain
you seem to focus a lot on hard
for
work.
the for the roles that I'm called in for. I'm aware that what I present physically already plays a massive part in me getting those roles. So for me, being in good physical shape and looking a certain way and being a certain way when I enter the casting room is vital for me. For
But what
somebody else,
but aside from that, what else constitutes your personal brand? What else makes you different from the other actors?
I would say my background being Jamaican, even though the Jamaican-ness is not necessarily something that reads when I go into the room. The Jamaican-ness in Jamaica, we value hard work, especially when we enter spaces that are overseas. We value being grateful. We value being present in the moment. And this is something that I own personally within myself. I'm present in the moment. I'm grateful. And so when I enter a casting room, I'm not entering with an attitude of expectation. I'm entering with an attitude of gratitude. And so I understand within myself that I have to deliver. And that is a part of my personal brand. It's the whole energy that you deliver.
Did you have this very Zen attitude before you got to LA? Because everybody in LA is Zen. Did you come into this, or is it something that over time you realize that I'm grateful for this opportunity that I have? Were you always thinking, gosh, I need to be in the moment, I need to be present? Or is it something that you're evolving as a human being as well as an artist?
100% evolution. And evolution has taken place because of difficulty. I mentioned before about the whole privilege thing growing up in Jamaica. I had to very clearly separate myself from that when I got to the UK. Because as I said before, once you get into the space where you have to work hard, it almost doesn't matter what your background is. When you're on a level playing field with everybody else, and you have to put in the work, and sometimes more work than other people who are born in that country.
But tell me about the difficulty that you had in there.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to tell you a very funny story, actually. On my first audition, even before I got to We Will Rock You. The first audition I did in the UK in London was for the production Cats. So, oh God. So I decided I was going to go to a dance class because I was still in dancer mode at that time. Did the dance class. I did well, somebody put me aside and said, hey, they're auditioning for Cats in 2 days. You should go. Hume, I picked up myself. I went to the Cats audition. We were doing the routine, and boof, I fell off the stage.
I'm sorry.
So I was doing something in the routine, some turn. There's so many people on the stage. By the time I look around, I was off the stage into the bush. Like they had
I assume you didn't get that part.
I didn't get it. But what's worse is that they stopped the audition because I made such a bang when I fell that they stopped the audition and everybody turned around. And the guy was like, are you all right? I was like, yes, I'm fine. And you know what, Hume? Yeah. I finished the audition, was completely embarrassed, finished the audition. I didn't do another dance class for about 4 months, right? But the fact of the matter is that it takes experiences like that to humble you, to know how hard you have to work and that you have to step over barriers to get to where you want to go to. In terms of less funny things, there are times where I was very low on money in the UK. I was very low on food, that kind of thing. I have only told my parents like maybe a half of what I've been through because, to be completely honest with you, every time I called them, they were like, come home. It's so much easier here, come home. And I didn't want to listen to that because by that time I knew I owed it to myself to be the best that I could be. And so there are times when I was very low on money, very low on food, sleeping on friends' sofas, all kind of things. And after you go, having come from a background in Jamaica where the most I had to worry about was what car I was going to drive for the day, to not having money to purchase certain things, to have to catch on somebody's sofa, that humbles you, right? And then you begin to have an understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. So my mother would say to me, come home, life is easier. But then in the difficult circumstances, I'm sitting there going, why am I doing this? And within the questioning in that moment, I came up with the answers because my journey isn't finished. There's something inside of me which is telling me my journey is not complete and I have more to give. Right?
I mean, off the record, we were talking about Jamaicans bringing a good attitude to bringing professionalism, bringing hard work. We're hard workers, but you were talking about bringing discipline and bringing professionalism to the craft and to your building relationship. Talk about that, because you can't have talent and people will turn you down because you're hard to work with.
Oh, so you want to talk about being hard to work with or hardworking? Because I'll talk about both.
No, I'm asking you for the young people who are watching this, and you can bring talent to the table. And if you're a difficult personality to work with, then you may not be cast. So
100%.
I want to comment on that.
100%. And I want you to know that, especially in the age of social media, casting directors, once you get to a certain level, casting directors look at your, more so commercial casting directors will look on what you're posting online. But once you get to a certain level as an actor in terms of a brand and representing a film company or a film studio, they pay very close attention to what you are presenting online. And I know people who have been fired, who have been sent home on set for questionable behavior. And people there was one guy, we're doing a film, and he had a bigger part than me, and he was acting up on set. And a few hours later, I saw him leaving the gate, and I saw the casting director drove in, and they had a meeting. And 2 days later, somebody else came in and had his part. So, I think it is, you have to keep in mind that very few people are not disposable as an actor. An actor has a lot of weight in terms of telling the narrative of a story. An actor gets greater weight when they become a star and they have leverage and they're visible. But even when you get to that level, you can still be knocked off your perch. So it is in your best interest.
What is your advice?
My advice is to be humble and to be grateful and to acknowledge that the thing that you're seeking is greater than you. In terms of your vision is greater than where you are in the moment. And you always have scope to learn. Like I acknowledge that I've accomplished certain things, but I also acknowledge that there's a lot for me to learn. Every time I sit down and I talk about being in Game of Thrones, I'm sitting with a friend of mine who just had a regular role in an HBO series. I'm sitting down with my friend who called me up and say, hey, Marcus, I got a part in Star Wars. You know what I mean? I'm constantly surrounded by inspiration and also a reminder that I do have more work to do, even in terms of everything that I've achieved. Just back to the whole discipline thing.
Hold on, I'm looking at Basil Waite is saying that this interview is authentic and honest and stimulating. Nadine McLeod, no, this compliment was for me, from Nadine McLeod. It's a good interview, Hume. But I'm just kidding. So Linda, congratulations. Marcus, Althea Lang also says congratulations.
Althea, nice. Tell her hi. Hi, Althea.
David Prendergast is asking, is fluidity a fundamental aspect of your brand? Is it deliberate or is it accidental?
In terms of the whole ethnically ambiguous thing, the fluidity? It is a massive asset. Yeah. There's no way for me to go around that, or no way for me to say anything other than what it is. It is. In terms of the roles that I've played, I played the role of Arjuna. It was a lead role in a stage production called the Mahabharata. Arjuna is an Indian, but once I get on stage and they put the thing in the middle of your forehead and put on the costume and shave head, you can't tell the difference. Backstage I had lots of Indian people coming. Oh my God, I didn't realize you weren't Indian on the stage. Game of Thrones, I already said that character was ambiguous and North African. Played the role of Akhenaten, he was Egyptian. I just did a part in a production called Carmen in London, playing a Spanish soldier. So yes, the ambiguous thing plays a huge role. Is it deliberate? It's something that I can't control. So it is not necessarily deliberate, but I'm aware of how to I'm aware of it and I'm aware of how to use it.
And it's
It
part of
doesn't,
your advantage now, is it?
it's part of my advantage, yeah. It doesn't, I mean, you know, there are other actors who have been in the same brackets. The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is, you know, he benefits from that. And also Vin Diesel.
And there are a few,
You know?
there's a Australian, New Zealander, I think a Maori guy who is broken into Hollywood. Interesting I say that, because when I was in Australia, I realized that a lot of their local programming, you would see these really, there were big stars in Australia, but they weren't known in Hollywood. But then they would have Hollywood producers or scouts. They would come down to Australia or New Zealand and they would cast these people. And then I've seen a number of actors who I would have seen in Australia and New Zealand on Hollywood films. I always wonder, why is it not that they don't come to the Caribbean, which is just an hour away, or 5 hours, 7 hours maximum, to scout for talent as well?
Yeah.
Why do they go to those bigger markets?
Because the bigger markets, quote unquote, if you want to call it that, have a history of providing excellent talent, and a history of creating good programs, whether it be stage productions or television productions. I'm going to focus on film and television for this question because film and television is the most visible. So for example, in Australia, there's so many movies that are produced there. You have Neighbours, which was a soap opera, Australian soap opera that was global. And so that has provided Australian actors with a level of visibility, which people in Los Angeles and other markets in the world notice. And once you're able to provide that level of excellent consistency, then you become a market, then you become valuable. It's all about adding value.
So are you saying that in the Caribbean, we have to create more local productions?
I would say so, but create more excellent local productions. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow the Hollywood template. It doesn't mean that you have to follow any template, but you know, good acting is good acting, and you can always tell if something seems a little bit unprofessional or off, or if the character isn't believable. So it starts.
But I imagine it's not just the character. I imagine
no,
as well.
It's the whole thing. You know, the type of camera can help, framing, the technical aspects mixed with the artistic aspects. You know. Editing is important, lighting is important. Most important sometimes is the story. Once you have an extremely good story and narrative, and then you find the actors to fit into that story, it almost doesn't matter. The story almost transcends the technicalities of the production. You can have a simple camera and have an amazing story, and that story will read. And as you go on, as you're able to produce content of higher quality with a higher technical spec, then you go along that journey. And so it's happening.
Yeah, it is happening in Jamaica. But your advice for actors in Jamaica, or aspiring actors who want to break into the Hollywood, what would you suggest? They clearly can't fly up to Hollywood because they produce.
I would say be mindful of why is it that you want to be an actor or a performer. Do you want to do it because you feel you have a calling or you have a love for it? Or do you want to do it because of what you think Hollywood is? Because I can tell you, Hollywood is a lot of what you would never expect. It is also a lot of what you would expect. The large majority of it is, but there's a whole section which is a complete opposite of it. So even before coming to LA, I wasn't thinking about Hollywood. I was thinking about furthering myself in my craft. It just so happens that I got to a crossroads where it made sense for me to come here. I would say for actors in Jamaica in particular, focus on, as I said before, the excellence of your craft. Focus on learning from people who are maybe a step ahead of you or a few steps ahead of me. Like me, I have an Instagram account. You can message me there, etc. I think there are a few other Jamaican actors, and hopefully as we progress as a conglomerate outside of Jamaica, we can give back to Jamaica.
practical advice, Marcus. I'm looking for an advice where somebody right now, I
Yeah.
want to be an actor. I'm serious about this. I have the commitment. I have the talent. What do I do next? Do I write my own script? Do I put myself on social media? What should they do?
No. So if you want to be a legitimate actor, I would say find an acting course. I think the Edna Manley College has a drama course. Find a course or a group around you that offers an acting program and engage with the arts through that program. Once you're in that group, surround yourself with people who have a similar mindset, and then you can start writing. If you're not a good writer, find somebody who may be a better writer. Start with small productions, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, right? Start with concise productions. Start with creating a narrative that is interesting, and produce that narrative. Stay training, stay within the course. And as your craft develops, then you can focus on things like social media and YouTube and stuff like that, and getting in touch with the Jamaica Film Commission, I believe it is. I know for a fact that there are a lot of programs happening in Jamaica through Edna Manley, through JAMPRO, through the Jamaica Film Institute. I can't remember the name right now, but I know Noel Carr is a part of that. Reach out to the organizations that offer practical courses or can offer direction in terms of getting practical training, and start there. It starts with the talent and nurturing the talent.
Okay.
And yes, there are people who have intrinsic talent, you know, they can get up in front of a camera and start talking and acting and stuff like that. But Jamaica has a particular style of acting when it comes to narrative and storytelling. And I think it would be good, yes, you can engage with that, but also learn to operate outside of that, you know, and allow yourself to be as, be able to operate across the spectrum as much as possible.
Question, Nadine McLeod has a question. She says, production is very costly in Jamaica. This is usually a problem, but she still wants to know, how can someone move from Edna Manley to Hollywood? How do you make that transition?
That's a big jump. That's a huge jump. It can happen. That's a huge jump.
From Jamaica to England to LA.
Exactly. And I'm gonna say this again. It comes down to visibility. Yes, you can leave Jamaica after Edna Manley and you can take a chance and come to the LA. And if you know somebody in LA, for example, myself, I can introduce you to an agent. But at the same time, if you don't have a body of work to present to that agent will look on you and say, why are you here? Right? So the important thing is to have a show reel. A show reel is an actor's resume. A show reel is a composite of bits and pieces of the work that you have done. Have a good show reel, 3 minutes long, 3.5 minutes long, no longer than that, because they only watch a minute anyway. And have a body of work that you are proud of that is solid. Have a good headshot. A headshot is a picture that when casting directors are sent actors, they get headshots, and basically they go through thousands of headshots, and they basically sometimes just pick the headshot that they like the best. So your biggest assets are headshots, a good headshot that's striking, good lighting, and I know there are some amazing photographers in Jamaica, great lighting, and a good show reel. For a show reel, you need good material. So if you're not in a Jamaican production on television, then you're going to have to go the route of finding somebody in your circle at the drama school who is a good writer and create pieces and put it on camera.
Absolutely. That's a great advice. Yeah. We're going to move towards the end of this conversation. So what's next for Marcus James? What are you working on now, Marcus?
Yeah, I am doing 2 productions. So I'm doing a production entitled Goals. I'm playing the role of Grady King. He's a talent agent, and it deals with, in America they call it soccer. In Jamaica we call it football. It's a sports television production for the one of the streaming services. So we're in rehearsals right now. We're doing Zoom rehearsals.
I just had football played with the feet.
Real football played with the feet. I'm not playing football. I'm one of the talent agents representing one of the footballers. Okay. Right?
You can't play football.
Me can't play football. I can run though. I'm good at track.
Good.
So I'm working on Goals, and that's in pre-production right now.
Okay.
And we're gonna film a few scenes later on in the year once we're able to film. And then from there, about 10 episodes have been written already. So that's happening. I'm also doing another production in Jamaica entitled For Little Girls Who Are Afraid to Speak, written by Anno Harris, who is a screenwriter. And Anno is in Little People and actually with me. Anno actually just got a scholarship to go to Goldsmiths College in the United Kingdom. So expect a lot from him. And I'm playing one of the leads in that production as well. And that is something I have when filming is possible. November, December, could be early next year. But that is something.
All Jamaican cast?
That is an all Jamaican cast, yeah. So that is something I'm particularly proud of because it's the first time that I've ever been cast as a Jamaican because of my Jamaicanness. I mean,
would have come full circle.
Yeah, so the character isn't even full Jamaican, but I mean,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It is what it is. It's a Caribbean storyline.
Exactly.
Script is amazing, and one of the things I want to point out is that there are Jamaicans overseas who are doing amazing things. And what I want to say is that I, as an artist, I am willing to give back to my country to help to contribute to that platform of excellence. And I know somebody like Anno, who is a screenwriter, is able to do that. I know Rob Mela is doing it. I know Kia is doing it. Noel Carr. There are other actors who are doing their thing out of Jamaica who may not be visible now, but trust me, in a few years they will be visible. And I think the onus is on us to help Jamaica. I mean, Jamaica is doing extremely well anyway, but to work to help create our own story and to build the industry more. So that is a practical way in which Jamaica can gain visibility.
I get you.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you?
Oh, God.
What does it look like for you?
Success means convincing my mother that I can be 100% sustainable as an actor. I mean, and so that she can stop worrying, so that she doesn't have to. I mean, no matter what I do, she's always gonna say, "What's next?"
But
hey,
you know what?
I got into Game of Thrones. My God, that's amazing. 2 months later, so what's next? I recently did a production here called Escape the Night, and that gave me SAG eligibility. And by the way, when you come to LA, there are hurdles to jump. Like you can't even be considered for any of these TV shows without being SAG or SAG eligible. So now I'm SAG eligible.
Is that a union, right?
That is a union. So I was invited to join the union in 2019.
So you have to be invited to join the union?
You have to be invited to join the union, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so you have to have recommendations from producers and stuff like that. So Thank God I've passed that hurdle. Anyway, so after I did that, she said, okay, what's next? Everything is what's next.
Well,
so for me...
Let me ask you something as you talk about your mom and what's next.
Yeah.
Tell me about how do you get paid? Are you being paid well for these? You're not to tell me your business.
I'm not telling my business, but
this is always a concern. This is always
absolutely.
For the industry.
Yeah. So fortunately, I've been able to work consistently. I know that we're focusing on me as a film and television actor now. But there's a whole body of theatrical work that I've done. And I often have done many productions at the same time. I was in the UK for part of 2019. And while I was in the UK, I did 2 theater productions. And in the middle of one of the theater productions, I also did a docuseries entitled Mummy Mysteries.
And they're paid gigs.
Absolutely, all paid.
So I know the rent in LA is unbelievably expensive.
Yeah.
And you afford the rent every month.
Yes, I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you. You buy the big house yet?
No, not yet. But
yet.
I'm good.
Right.
Also in the UK, I want to point out that I had part-time jobs. I was working as a real estate agent, selling office space. I was doing many things. And the good thing about it is that the majority of my family are business people. So even though I am an actor, I'm profoundly aware that acting is a business. Mm-hmm. And as such, I'm also aware of the importance of saving. I'm also aware of the importance of money management. I'm not scared of venturing outside of my craft so that I can sustain myself. But yes, I'm able to sustain myself comfortably as an actor. Thank God, and I'm grateful for that.
Second to last question.
Mhm.
What is the value of the arts? I mean, let me just put the context to this. For Jamaica, the creative arts and our talented people is really the backbone, not the aesthetics, not the sun and the sea that the JTB
No.
advertising. So for you, what do you think is the value of the arts, and how do you think that government or the private sector can support the arts in Jamaica?
Okay. I think the first thing here is to realize that the essence of Jamaica is its people. And you mentioned the tourism and the sand and the sea and etc. Jamaica is known for that, but Jamaica is also known globally for music. It is known for having the fastest people in the world. It is known for its food. You see Jamaican restaurants all over the place. It is known for varying things which are the byproducts of our people. Music comes from our people. Athleticism comes from our people. And as such, I think it is extremely important to invest in our people, not just the government, but individuals from the private sector who have disposable income and are able to give back to society. I was able to benefit from being a part of private organizations like Little People and Ashe and Lakadco, University Dance Society, etc. These were private organizations, not government organizations. And so to a certain extent, it is up to the people to come together in certain enclaves and decide that they want something to happen and to make it happen. They can seek funding, but it is also down to individuals in society who have disposable income to be aware of their ability to give back and to engage with that ability to give back. I mentioned something before about actors and performers outside of Jamaica. I think that once we get to a particular level and we are able to give back to society, it would be good if we turned around and did that. That's something I'm interested in, and I know that there are other people who are interested in doing that as well. So what you said, the importance of the arts is exceedingly important in Jamaica because Jamaica is the arts. You do a television interview, you go on the streets and you put a microphone in front of anybody to do an interview, you're gonna get a dramatic piece. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
TVJ or CVM or Hume Johnson goes to Jamaica to interview somebody, trust me, they're gonna come with a skit. They're gonna come with a song. They're gonna come with a dance that all of a sudden is the biggest dance. And I think Jamaicans are finding a way to capitalize on this. In the dancehall community, you have the dancehall dancers, etc., and there's nothing wrong with it. That is a legitimate art form. I know now that there seems to be an emphasis on creating good product. For example, and it's on a tangent, but going back to the dancehall dancers, I can see people now coming together and doing routines where they look in sync. Their costumes look good. Their branding looks good, right? We need to turn the same focus that we've given to athletics and music and give that to acting, give that to dancehall culture, give that to whatever else. And we can do it. It just depends on where our energy goes.
Thank you so much. Let me ask you one last question. How do you stay fit? I mean,
oh God.
How do you, and how do you stay fit physically? And the last question is, what do you advise young people to do when times get tough? How do you push through it?
Right.
Like giving up.
So, yeah. Staying fit is as much physical as it is mental. At this point in time, my level of fitness is very intricately interwoven with my career. And so even though sometimes I'm like, my God, I don't want to work out, I know what my competitors are doing. They are in the gym, right? There are certain people in LA, I see them in the casting room all the time. We're friends on Instagram. We're friends in the gym, but we are rivals. And I know what they're doing, and I know they're watching what I'm doing. And it's that healthy level of competition that spurs me on. The other thing is that at this time, I'm just addicted to it. So, you know.
There are a couple more questions from the audience.
Yes, audience, let's go.
Nadine McLeod is saying that you appear to be grounded in your Jamaican culture, but do you do accent training?
Yes. Yeah.
In England, you had a pretty good English accent.
Yeah, my English accent is good. There are certain accents that I do very well. A standard American accent is very good, like a New York accent is also good, or a British accent is also good. And
accent for me right now. I love the British accent.
Okay, so we'll do the rest of the interview in a British accent then. So, yes. So, yeah. So we can do it in a British accent or any other accent.
Or did you go to training to do?
No, I didn't. This is something that I think became intuitive. If you're a part of society, you pick up on certain nuances with the accent. There are different types of British accents. So there are certain accents that I'm strong. Yeah. Like, for example, if they called me in and said, can you do a Scottish accent? I'm going to say no. I'd say I'd give it my best shot, but it's not my strong point.
But there would be potential for you to do accent training if you were really.
Absolutely, yeah. You can get help with the British accent. You can get help with a standard American accent or a New York accent or whatever it is. Whatever
Carl Williamson, big up yourself.
Hey, Carl.
And last question from David: how do you remain relevant? How do you keep yourself relevant?
Okay. You keep yourself relevant by not coming off the path that you've designed for yourself. You have a vision, be focused, work towards that vision. In terms of the practical aspects of keeping yourself relevant, social media is quite big. Getting yourself to the point where you are doing consistent castings. So they are constantly in the face of casting directors, producers, directors, doing things like this, doing interviews, so people know what I'm doing and my visibility. That's how you maintain relevance. But relevance becomes easier when you have a body of work that supports the visibility.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you have to be consciously aware of the need to leverage the work that you've done.
Well, we can see that even if you weren't an actor, then you would still be very successful talking in a career in broadcast journalism.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You certainly can talk. So your training in television journalism did pay off.
So it didn't go to waste.
All right, guys, thank you so much. This is where I'm going to end it. Thank you so much, Marcus, for your time.
No problem.
Remember, the Brand New Lab is about empowering each other so that we can learn from each other, we can hear each other's story, we can feel inspired by other people's stories so that we can write our own. It's about getting the resources, the knowledge, the information, and the solution so that you can cultivate for yourself a strong and winning personal brand. We also want to use this Brand New Lab to amplify the conversation about personal branding. It's not about vacuous self-promotion or else I would not be a part of it. It's really about finding your value, your unique value, and offering value. What is your talent? What is your gift? What is your expertise? And leveraging that expertise to bring you the kinds of success that you want. And it's also a jump off point to build community. I didn't know where Marcus was for a long time. And then,
here I am.
Then he turned up, and this was a guy who would sleep over at my house to attend parties, living in Linstead, driving up to Kingston, bring all the clothes that he had. Aren't you spending one night, Marcus? And he said, when in doubt, bring everything.
Yeah, I was into the parties, man. Like I don't know, man. I enjoy a good party. I'm not gonna lie. Still the same.
So we are just to say that we're very proud of you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Every success. You're making great strides. And for us, for Jamaicans, if you move from right here to right here, we're proud.
Yeah.
We are constantly proud. And so
Thank you.
You're a great representative of Jamaica and all
Thank
of
you.
that in terms of hard work, in terms of persistence, in terms of being a decent human being. And we appreciate
I try my best.
For those of you who are watching, thank you very much for joining this conversation. I hope you join us again next time. I'm not sure there will be a brand new lab in August, but let's see what September holds. Remember, it's never, ever too late to reinvent yourself and unleash your personal power. If you want to start building your brand, you can purchase my brand new book on Amazon, or you can hit me up at humejohnson.com for a consultation on that. All right, take care. Marcus, can you just stick around for a moment?
Yeah, sure.
While we say goodbye to these folks on the chat. And I will end the Facebook conversation. Maybe you want to say goodbye to the people on Facebook, Marcus?
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And it was a pleasure being able to share my journey and my thoughts. And, you know, feel free to send me a message on Instagram if anybody needs advice about anything. I'll try to advise them as best as possible. I've been doing that anyway. A few Jamaican people have messaged me, so I'll do the best I can.
Instagram, you can follow Marcus on Instagram. His Instagram is
the Marcus James.
Marcus, that is MARCOS.
Yeah.
On Instagram. All righty, take care, guys. One love. Thank you for joining us. All right, so let me just end this live stream.